Welcome to our next episode of DecentMed Spotlight. Today we're here with the tag team of Michelle Holzberger and Vicky Todd. They are the authors of Solve Your Out of Control Eating, a groundbreaking book about emotional eating. When it comes to nutritionists, one of the biggest problems that they face is getting their clients to maintain and stick to their diets. Well, Vicky and Michelle have a whole new perspective on why that is, and it all stems from mental health. Ladies, introduce yourself.
I'm Victoria Todd. I'm a child and adult psychoanalyst and an eating disorder specialist. And my work in the field started many years ago. I was fresh out of graduate school and I was assigned a girl struggling with bulimia.
Mm.
And there was no information. I didn't know what bulimia was. There was no information available. So I had to scramble, and I finally found some things, causative factors, course of treatment at the medical library. And fast forward 35 years, now I've treated everyone from an 8-year-old with bulimia to an 80-some-year-old woman with binge eating disorder. They all feel what really drives me is their suffering. They all feel so hopeless and so helpless and defeated and depressed and desperate for help.
I'm Michelle Holzberger, and Vicki and I met many years ago. We worked together at Children's Aid Society, and we were helping children in residential care. And then years later, Vicki approached me with this project that she was working on, trying to put together podcasts for professionals and sharing all this knowledge with professionals. The second I heard it, I was just so overwhelmed because I thought to myself, what she is sharing right now needs to be in the hands of everyone who has eating issues. This doesn't need to go to professionals. We need to get this out to the everyday person who struggles all day long. Maybe they eat well during the day and blow it at night, or people who are just feeling shame and guilt about what they're eating. And if we could get these tools into their hands, I thought to myself, that's where it needs to be. So we spent over 2 years collaborating to write Solve Your Out of Control Eating with many real life therapy patient stories, and then how the work that they did, the tools that Vicky used to help them have these insights and these aha moments. Oh my gosh, that's why I do this.
And like Vicky said, there's so many of them that struggle with depression. I feel like as people are growing in wanting holistic medicine, the biggest thing that they're facing is the what do I do? And I love that your book is all tangible steps on how to overcome this.
Well, we all know what physical eating or physical hunger feels like. You get a feeling in your stomach, it grows gradually, and you eat and it goes away. Emotional hunger is very different. It feels like panic, and it's not responsive to food. You just kind of wear yourself out eating. Um, it's it's emotion driven. For example, Samuel, if you were here and the computer jammed and you worked on it 2 or 3 minutes and then you made a beeline for the cupboards,
Mm.
I might say to you, Samuel, frustration, it's a very hard feeling for you to have. And we need to figure out why. Now, that's just an example. Frustration, sad, mad, lonely. You know, some people, I will even say it's almost like you're allergic to all your feelings because all of them feel horrible. They
Mm.
can't tolerate even happiness will send them to the cupboard for food.
And I like how you mentioned that it seems like emotional eating is like a mask.
For one thing, I am very pro nutritionists. I have worked with them for years and I have been super impressed with them. They are experts at nutritional information, meal planning, meal prep, behavioral techniques. They're outstanding at that. So the best approach is two-pronged. And what I deal with is the in-depth emotional issues.
Well, I think that there's a definite role for nutritionists and health coaches. We have a platform on TikTok, Out of Control No More, and we have a lot of health coaches that are following us as well. So I think that there is a mindset out there for collaboration and realizing that it's two or three pronged approach, right? Where you have to kind of tackle the problem from many angles.
It plays such a big role. And just look, I mean, when you're sitting down watching TV, you're just bombarded. Pizza Hut, Buffalo Wild Wings, Burger King. You know, for me, I'm drooling when I see McDonald's Shamrock Shake. It's like, get out of my way. I want one of these. And that's what the media does. They count on that impulsivity. Now, I'm not going to hop in my car and go get a Shamrock Shake, but they can certainly make me think about it. And the other part is the standards for beauty. This really beautiful young woman recently, Sydney Sweeney, she's beautiful. But you know, most of us could diet forever, and we're not going to achieve Sydney Sweeney's level of beauty. It's not attainable. Well, the older you get, the more you think, yeah, she's beautiful. That's fine. But for these young girls, they really want to give it a try. And then their self esteem really suffers when they can't achieve the unachievable.
Whole body image thing is just a huge stress on these young girls. It really is as well. So,
20%, I think, are men compared to 80% are women.
I mean, Vicky, in her practice, I know she works with all ages, from little children to, I mean, I think someone who's 85, right, Vicky?
Right.
But in our book, when we wrote it, we really had someone about age 20 to age 50 in mind. And that seems to be the kind of crowd that we're attracting, I would say, on TikTok and on Instagram.
Right now, my private practice is I have more males than females right
Wow.
now.
That's interesting because what I've seen with our platform is it's the same thing. It's mainly women. And I think it's because there is this massive push, again, back to the media, where if men seek help, they're soft. How do men respond to your work?
Same, the
Mm,
same. Sometimes you get somebody that comes in full of bravado and uh, seems to need to shoot down everything I say, and um, but that's all just defensive, Samuel.
mm,
And eventually, when they establish a relationship with me, when they know they can trust me, then they start pouring out their heart like the women do.
mm,
All of these hurts.
That gets to really the core of the message, is that your body is remembering what the
mm,
past has forgotten. And so by taking the steps to peel away the layers and get curious, people look into their past and they see, oh my goodness, when I was a little girl, I would hide from my parents fighting. I would go into my
mm,
bedroom. I'd lay in my bed and eat candy and stick the wrappers under my bed. And that was my little cocoon, my safe space, right? Well, now that same woman, as an adult in her marital conflicts and in her family conflicts, in the evening catches herself just candy bar after candy bar. Or maybe there's
Mm.
some instant where there's, a flare up in the family and she's stopping at 7-Eleven and grabbing all those snacks and munching away. Well, she is not realizing that that was a conditioned response from very early on. And here she is just berating herself that she has no willpower. And that's what we're here to free people from, is it's not that you're weak. It's not that you don't have any willpower. There's more to the story. There's clues. And once you do that, you get rid of the shame and the guilt and the pain. And all of a sudden you just start getting like a detective, right? And get curious. Why am I doing this? What in my past led me to this? And we have some timelines and some therapy models that are in the book. So the second half of the book is all kind of like a workbook where people can
Mm.
take these things and apply them to themselves. So the learning and the stories and the vignettes and the therapy insights are unfolding in the book. And then we give everyone workbook-like steps to apply it to themselves. And then they can have their own aha moment, right? So they see how Gina and all these people in the book are uncovering it. And then that's true, that's helping them to think about it. The other thing that's really fascinating, Samuel, is that, there's different degrees of out of control eating, right?
Mm.
I mean, some people are just snacking too much at night. Some people are just full blown binging, bulimia, and just it controls their whole life. So the book is very, very gentle. It
Mm.
takes someone who could have the most serious of problems, someone who Vicky and I would see face to face and just take such baby steps to be with them and to listen to their stories. And so we put that level of care in the book so that we wouldn't overwhelm anyone who had layers and layers of issues. And we wanted to help them take things slowly and with a lot of TLC. And so for the person who maybe can go a little faster, well, maybe they're going to skip over the little stop and thinks and the little breaks that we built in. And we say, okay, now it's time to go for a walk or get a sip of water or put on your diffuser with some lavender. We do little things just like we would want to be tender and take it slow with people in our office. We did that in the book as well.
So I like how you mentioned that the book is like a workbook, where you look at it more of coming back to the book consistently and reading it maybe several times and working with it.
Well, for one thing, as far as obesity goes, you would always rule out physical causation. Is there a medical problem going on? Medication, something like that. And if that's clear, then it's pretty obvious that it's an emotional problem.
Mm.
Now, as far as all three groups, it's obvious the differences between anorexia, bulimia, binge eating. But I'll tell you that every one of them worries endlessly about losing control when it comes to food, including anorexia.
Mm.
They are very, very worried. There's all this fear food. Oh my God, I lost, I've had anorexics in my office who said, "Do you know how much pasta I ate last night?" Now, are they consuming the amount that you would see in a binge eater or a bulimic? Probably not. But the fear is every bit as intense.
Mm.
They're terrified of losing control when it comes to eating. And we all have to eat to live. So they're always tempted.
When it comes to a nutritionist, they focus on the physical health. And in this country, we all know that there is a obesity problem. But I feel like enough people aren't talking about the mental health element of the problem in this country.
Well, if I could just, maybe you can address that, Michelle, but I would like to say before you do, I just posted two videos where I talk about a kindly mom. Now, you have to realize people with eating issues a lot of times didn't have a kindly mom. So,
Mm,
this is an example of someone who goes out to eat out for pizza with her friends. She has two pieces and she's fine with that. But then it's so good. And she reaches for the third piece. She eats it and then she's off to the races in a binge.
mm,
And what I talk about is I broke it into two parts. The first part would be the kindly mother would say, Kay, two pieces were just right for you. But that pizza was so good, and you had a third piece. Next time, you can have that later. In other words, they haven't been helped with later, Samuel.
mm,
So the kindly mother says, you can have your two pieces, and then later you can have the third. In the second part of this set, I talk about the harsh conscience because people who overeat, bulimia, anorexia, really harsh conscience, very harsh, and they berate themselves endlessly.
mm.
You're no good, you're a fat slob, on and on, all this really mean stuff. So the kindly mother says, Kay, you're being very unkind to yourself. That was a mistake, not the giant mistake you're making it. It was a little mistake. It was an oops, and we can fix it. And how do we fix it? We remember. For next time, two pieces are just right, and we'll save the third one for later. And Michelle, do you want to
Well,
address?
that's I think the mat that's such a brilliant example, Vicky, because I think when a nutritionist is working with someone, they're assessing, okay, what are their strengths and weaknesses in this program? Where are they having successes and where are they having failures? And so as they see that their failures and their verbiage about themselves is, I'm such a loser. I can't believe I did this. So you gave me this plan and, I can't, I just hate myself and I'm never going to be able to do this. So they're going to look at the messaging, right? Well, that messaging came from somewhere that's coded in them. And so that would be a pretty obvious heads up to the nutritionist that maybe talking through some things because you know what, you're being really hard on yourself, and we're here, we're trying this, and you're taking steps forward, but yet you're not giving yourself any credit for your progress. And so I think a nutritionist would want to have another team member.
Right. But what you're saying, Michelle, is that the nutritionist would recognize that harsh conscience and take the kindly mother approach. That wasn't a great big deal. This is a little mistake, even an oops, and we can fix it. Maybe you're going too long between meals and you're getting too hungry, and then maybe you're gobbling down your food, that kind of stuff. But the words can work for the nutritionist as well.
Because we have over 20 providers on the platform. We have two providers that are actually in Tampa.
I think that these people are in a prime position to see that people are having some issues around their diet, around their food choices, and that if they know that there's a resource like Vicky and out here, people we're offering information out on social media. They can go to Out of Control No More on TikTok. There's the website Solve Your Out of Control Eating with a whole source of videos, therapy vignettes. There's a link to our book, which is on Amazon, Solve Your Out of Control Eating. So being able to have a resource for their clients. And then, for us, when we talk about the body remembers what the mind forgets, I'm just going to put in a plug for all those people because I'll give you an example. I mean, with a massage therapist, and she's, giving a massage to someone, and she gets to the buttocks area, and next thing you know, someone starts sobbing.
Mm,
Well, that's a huge heads up, right? So somebody did not treat her very kindly at some point in her life, and she had all that stored emotion locked up in her body, and it began to be released, right? So the what would you say, the kindly mother, the kindly massage therapist would say, oh, clearly you have some emotions that are locked up in here, and maybe it might be helpful to talk to some people about those feelings because while we're letting them go out, we're releasing them out of your body. We need to kind of fix the heart part of it and the inner
mm.
child part of it and heal that wound.
Thanksgiving's coming up, so I'll give you a Thanksgiving example. People who go home and have Thanksgiving with their family, do you know what old feelings get stirred up by that?
Yeah.
So, my patients, we will spend a month sometimes talking about, anticipating. You know these people, you know them, and we're going to talk about what you anticipate. Well, I know my mom. My mom will start hitting the wine at 4 p.m. At 6 p.m., she'll be asleep on the couch. My dad will be mad at her. He'll be making all these negative comments. My sister, she's so perfect. She'll show up with her perfect boyfriend, and I won't have a date.
Mm,
And they're all set. And everybody's paying attention to my sister, and nobody's paying attention to me. That's always how it goes. So we deal with all of these feelings in advance. We run through every scenario, anticipating. And what can you do? This is what I call the protection plan. What can you do? You seem to say that you have to go. What can we put in place for so that you're protected? Well, there will be all this high calorie food. What can you take? Well, I can take carrots and celery. Take something that you really enjoy liking that's healthy. You take something that you're going to enjoy eating that isn't so high calories, something like that. You don't have to stay 4 hours, time
mm,
limited. You've got to get home to give your dog his pill, whatever, time limited. When you get home, immediately, before you do anything else, write down your feelings in your journal. Just pour it out, pour it out, pour it out. Get your shoes that are by the door. Go for a walk. You'll address all of this emotional stuff later,
mm.
not right now, later, in bearable bits, little bits.
Yes.
Yes,
So we help people try and protect themselves and think things through ahead of time.
What's interesting when you think about Thanksgiving, it's the one holiday that's known for binge eating. But
right.
what you mentioned that was so powerful and what people need to understand is the binge eating is mental health driven. It's not that they're binge eating because they're super hungry, because in the case of anorexia, a lot
No.
of times they're throwing it up. So it's not that they love the food. It's that especially with unhealthy food, There's a comfort there that's a mask for something else.
And another important point here is people learn around the age of 2. A
Mm,
toddler is real aggressive and they're always into things. There's a big physiological upsurge in aggression. And you got to get off that lap. You got to get off mom's lap. And they get into everything. They're out at the outlets. They're trying to stick their fingers in that. They're doing this, doing that. Mom's always saying no. And if mom is chronically angry,
mm,
that toddler learns to seek sweets. Sweets
mm,
becomes a substitute for mother's love.
mm.
And it stays that way through their whole life for some of these people. It
Wow.
signifies a substitute for mother's love.
Well, we appreciate your expertise. Vicky trained psychoanalysts trained for over a decade, and then Vicky has gone on to also train to be a child analyst as well. So she is really known nationally for her level of expertise. So we're really grateful to learn everything from her. And it was an honor for me to collaborate with her on this book as she was sharing all of the therapy insights and we were putting the stories together of people. The level of depth and the level of compassion that are in these stories, they're just captivating when you read them. I mean, you feel like you're just bond with some of these individuals in the book. And then to be able to take Anna Freud's theory, where she worked after World War II. She worked with children after the war, and she was able to see with these children when things were going right and when things were going wrong. And
Mm,
one piece of that puzzle was their eating. And she basically wrote The Road to Rational Eating. And that is in our book in very simplistic terms, whereas analysts are studying for years and years trying to understand these things. So Vicki and I deciphered it, made a timeline of Road to Rational Eating when things go right, from when a baby is being nursed to poor little fed up Fred, who, like the example you just got, mad at mom. Not only do they crave sweets, but they also reject mom. That's why a
Right.
savvy caregiver will bring in someone else to give them the food and be the choo-choo train and do all those things. Because if you're mad at mom, you reject her food.
yeah.
And so there's all these steps that we teach people in the second half in the workbook section that they can journal and write out what they have happened to them or what the family members give them some information. Oh, yes, we poked the hole in your bottle and you had this flooding and different things like that correspond to behaviors later on in life. So the
Mm.
book has these two sections. I'm so touched, so honored to be part of something that is so powerful and that can truly change people's lives by having them stop looking in the mirror and start looking inside of themselves to get solutions that they need.
Yes, and Solve Your Out of Control Eating is available on Amazon. Real success stories that unlock the mystery of diet failures, cravings, and eating disorders. This has
Well,
been
thanks.
the latest episode of Decent Med Spotlight featuring how to solve your out of control eating with Dr. Vicky Todd and Michelle Holzberger. Ladies, thank you so much for joining us today.